Hi, I'm Clay Allison from Wicked Edge, and what I've got in my sharpener is a knife sent in by Rich from Arizona, and it is a Spyderco Paramilitary 3 with CPM S110B steel. So it's a wonderful steel, great design on the blade, and I've chosen to sharpen it in my Generation 3 Pro sharpener, and I just want to walk you through the settings I used for it and let you have a look at the finish I applied, and I'll talk about why I made the choices I did. So the first thing about this knife to know is that it's a fully flat ground blade, which means it tapers from the spine all the way to the edge. It's also distally tapered, which means that it tapers from the heel all the way to the tip. So that configuration is a little bit challenging to clamp if you have a rigid clamping system. So the Generation 3 Pro has two features that make it much easier to clamp a knife like this. The first feature is that the jaws are free floating, so you can watch as I close them, they're going to conform to both sides of the blade at once. So that's great for the fully flat ground feature. And the second feature is that they're split down the middle, and that allows me to get a better grip on the knife that has the distal taper. So as it's making contact in the back, I can continue to apply force, and the front will conform around to the shape of the blade as well. So I get a very positive lockup of that knife, and I can pick up the whole sharpener with it. So that's why I chose this sharpener in particular. And then the next thing I'm going to show you is how I set it up in the clamp. Because of the curvature of the blade, it's a little tricky to find what we call the sweet spot. So I got it in the clamp and I adjusted it around, and I ultimately found that the sweet spot on this knife was at a location on my advanced alignment guide of F6. So the way this thing works is pretty simple. I'm just going to take out my depth key and plug it through the holes of the advanced alignment guide, and in this case I put it in the top holes of the clamp. And now I'm just going to slip my knife into the vise and set it on the pins of the depth key, and then I'm just going to line the tip of the blade to position F6. It looks like I've got it where I want it, and then I just clamp it in place. So now I know I'm exactly where I was when I left off sharpening it earlier. Okay, so what I've done with this knife is I've reprofiled it, because when I first got it, it was sharpened at 20 degrees on one side and 17 on the other. So it's a pretty uneven set of bevels. So I reprofiled it to 16 degrees per side, so it's nice and even. And I took it through a whole range of grits to get it to a nice high polish. I went from 400 grit, which is where I used to reprofile it, up through 600, 800, 1000, and 1500 diamond. And then I used my lapping films in 9 micron, 6 micron, and 3 micron to achieve the polish and finish that I wanted. And then I just finished it off with a 4 micron strop. So it's got a great high polish. It's extremely sharp right now, but it's a very polished edge, like I mentioned. And sometimes, while that edge might be great for shaving, which in this case it's just popping the hairs off really easily, or slashing through a push cut through paper, maybe it's not the greatest edge for tougher, more fibrous materials, like say a zip tie or a piece of rope or cardboard like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it back in the clamp at my F6 position, and I'm going to adjust the angle out to 19 degrees and apply a micro bevel. So it's pretty simple. I just grab my depth key, plug it into my alignment guide here, plug that into the top holes of the clamp, go ahead and set the knife in, align the tip with position F6, and lock it in place. So now I'm very confident that I'm right back where I was before, and I'm going to grab my 1000 grit stones and slide them onto the rods here. The 1000 grit, if you're looking for a micro bevel that's just a little bit toothy, like a great performer for an everyday carry knife, the 1000 grit is a pretty good place to be. I've experimented with going down to even as low as 200 grit for a micro bevel, and that's awesome if your main function is cutting rope or something really fibrous. All right, so I was at 16 degrees, and I'm going to make my micro bevel at 19 degrees. So on this machine, I just move the dial out here to 19 degrees, and that's locked in place. And then I can take my stones, and I'm just going to make a couple very light strokes, and not very many, to set that micro bevel in place. So it's just going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 very light strokes. That's three strokes per side, very light, at 19 degrees with the 1000 grit stones. And that's given me just an edge that's really toothy, really aggressive. And it's still shaving easily. It's not popping the hairs off like it was before when it was polished, but it's going to be fantastic for the everyday type of tasks that a person would normally use with this knife. So thanks for watching. If you've got questions on what I did here, please shoot me an email at support@wickededgeusa.com and visit us at our site at www.wickededgeusa.com. All right, thanks for watching.